Meeting is now called to order. I will turn the meeting over to the City Attorney, Gary Brandenburg.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd ask that the three newly elected commissioners please stand up. And we're all going to try to do this together and see how we do today. Repeat after me. I, and then your name. Raise your right hands. I,
Christine Peterson.
Molly Gardner.
Melanie McGahee.
a citizen of the state of Florida
A
Citizen of the state of Florida
and of the United States of America,
and of the United States of America,
and being an officer of the city of Clewiston, Florida,
and being an officer of the city of Clewiston, Florida,
and a recipient of public funds as such officer,
and a recipient of public funds as such
officer,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution and government of the United States
the Constitution and the government of the United States
and of the state of Florida,
and of the state of Florida,
and I am duly qualified to hold office under the Constitution of the state,
and I am duly qualified to hold office under the Constitution of the state,
and that I will
and that I will
well and faithfully perform
well and faithfully perform
all of the duties of the office of Commissioner of the City of Clewiston, Florida,
all of the duties of the office of Commissioner of the city of Clewiston, Florida,
on which I am now about to enter, so help me God.
of which I am now about to enter, so help me God.
Perfect.
Thank you, Gary.
If you could all sign your forms and hand them to the clerk, I'd appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. If you would like to join us in the prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance, please stand. We have tonight with us Pastor Miller from New Bethel AME Church, and she will lead us in prayer.
Thank you for the invitation to pray on behalf of the Clewiston Ministerial Association. Let us pray. Lord God, we pray with sincere thanksgiving for all your many blessings. I stand requesting your continual blessings, wisdom, and sufficiency upon all who are gathered here today, individually and collectively. We touch and agree with praise for allowing all city commissioners, law enforcement, management officials, support staff, employees, residents, and even bypassers to commit our work to you, and our thoughts will be established. For we know your plan is never to cause hurt or harm, but allows for a hope and a future. We ask and thank you for profound development and enhancement of all people, places, and things concerning this city, state, and nation. We pray and thank you for abundant resources of time, personnel, health, energy, finance, timely scheduling, and total restorations as applicable in both our personal and official affairs. Please help us all to be virtuous and morally strong. I pray and thank you that at this commissioners' meeting is implemented all are filled with wisdom, knowledge, agape love, guidance, protection, grace, mercy, self-control, patience, and esteemed leadership. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our city manager is not here tonight. Our finance director, Sherry Howell, is going to assist us. Are there any additions, deletions, or changes to the agenda, Sherry?
Yes, Mayor. The staff would like to pull agenda item number 7 and number 8. After further review, we feel like the city manager and the police chief need to have a discussion with the architect regarding those change orders.
Okay. All right. So we're removing agenda item number 7 and number 8.
Yes, please.
Okay. All right. Tonight we have Gloria Rosen with us, and she's going to give us the annual Securian Pension Plan update. Gloria?
Thank you. Commissioners, and congratulations to all that have been and come back again, Melanie. And congratulations to all of us for our new governor and our senator. So that I'm happy about. And Julio, I'm back, so it's okay. I'm still here. It's a family joke. If the funds don't do well, I don't appear. Been coming 5 years in a row. Good stuff. Good news. Okay. I brought as you know, where did he go? Oh, he's here. Hello. Jeff Ruber from the Home Office in Minnesota, who's very happy to be here this week due to obvious weather situations. And also Paula Loeb, who is living here. She is our Securian liaison, to say it different. I've given you all their cards. I will make the first part of the report, and then I'll have Jeff come in and answer questions and maybe go over the actuarial report and the future, what is happening. So what I've done for you is, last time I was here, and you will find two reports with attachments. The last time I was here, which was the June 30th report for the quarter, which I do every quarter, I gave you the first sheet, which is single, and on it we showed at the very bottom line that the investment gain from 8/21/2013 through 6/30/18, the investment gain on the retirement plan that I took over back in August of 13 has gained $4,652,768 after expenses, which includes the withdrawals made for people that are retired, which is this year is already at 530,000 as of September 30th. It's gone up each year. We've had more people retiring. We had 3 more people retire this past year. And then, excuse me, and it includes plan administration fees and contract fees. Sorry about that. The next report is now going to the end of September 30th, 2018, and coming right down to the bottom line, the investment gain between the same dates, 8/21/2013, and the end of the fiscal year, which is September 30th, 2018, is now $5,107,000, approximately $500,000 gain in the last quarter of the year. And I've made the attachments as I did last time, proceeding from the very beginning of the plan as far as the contributions throughout and then the withdrawals the entire time, coming to this conclusion of the gains that we have. So are there any questions about this part?
I don't have any questions. Does anybody have any questions?
No? All right, well, I'd like to bring Jeff in and let him discuss with you if you want to go over the actuarial report, and as well as the more time you keep him here, he'll be happy. Jeff Ruber.
Jeff, welcome back, and
Thank you.
You have to let us know what the weather was like when you left.
It was 21 degrees when I left this morning. So, trust me, it was real hard to twist my arm to come down here. And 91 when I landed, so. It's always enjoyable to come down and see some sunshine for a little bit instead of snow. So, as Gloria said, I wasn't going to go into detail on the actual report. It does have a lot of facts and figures, but does the committee have any questions in terms of numbers that you're seeing? If you look at page 3, the one thing I did want to show you is just how the allocation of the plan is currently allocated amongst the different major asset classes, which has been pretty similar over the last couple of years, even with the market volatility that we've had with the gains and with the losses, has been about the same overall in terms of the policy benchmark that we've used to run the plan. And you can see the returns have been pretty stellar as a result. So.
And Jeff, just for the public, will you just go over that allocation
Sure.
policy?
Domestic equities are 58%, international equities are 12%, and then we have the rest 30% in just traditional fixed income investment options.
Okay. All right. And since this is the first that we're seeing it, let's just go over really quick. If you'll just just the highlights of this report, please.
Sure. Well, it's got a lot of numbers. I won't bore you to death with them. How about that? If you go to page 2, it'll just show you the number of participants that you currently have. And as Gloria stated, you can see how they have turned from active to retired, and how that, year over year, how that changes. So as you mentioned that you have 4 people now that have now, from the previous plan year, now are retired. And you've seen a reduction with active employees as a result on that. And then if we flip to pages 4 and 5, this is just basically the numbers behind everything. It'll just show you basically where we started the plan year as contributions have been made, as benefits have been paid out, and then basically all the numbers. And then at the bottom of page 4, you'll see is the return that we had for the plan year, both the plan year that ended in 2017 and the plan year that just ended here in 18. You can see those 2 returns there. And then I will say between 5 and the rest is a lot more of actuarial information on the calculation and all of that stuff. We can go through that if you'd like, but it is very detailed and typically more nauseating just because it's created by actuaries. No offense to them, but it is just a lot of detail and numbers and things like that, and how we got to liabilities and all of that stuff. It's just the calculations and things like that. But more than willing to go through all of those, but it is a little bit more granular than.
Okay, in page 6, it does talk about the reconciliation of actual value of plan assets. Can you just go over that briefly?
Yeah, sure. So that, again, this just shows you for the plan year that ended 2017, where you stood with your plan, how the contributions were made, what benefits were paid out, what you earned, and then basically there's an actual return on evaluation, which is a little bit different than your return on assets. It has to do more with your liability perspective. And then the same thing for the plan year that just ended in 2018. Same numbers that you'll see in terms of from what you're looking for. Contributions, where they're placed, how they were, and then again, what the cost was for the year. And as Gloria alluded to, your benefits are going up, paid out on line item 3. As you have more and more retirees, that number is going to continue to go up, like we've discussed the last couple of years. So.
Okay, so what can we look as far as a budget impact when you look at this?
So if you go back to page 2, you'll see on line item 7, the first column there, $86,145. That is the recommended minimum contribution recommended by the end of the year on the plan. So.
Okay. All right. Are there any questions?
I want to congratulate you on the good numbers. It's been pretty good here the last few quarters. When you come with a smile, that's always good.
Makes life a little bit easier. Yes.
Question: consumer confidence is
Yep.
up, and of
Yep.
course, I see the market, up and down. Is there any concern in the last quarter this year, the first quarter next year, of the market, going crazy, or is it going to?
We're seeing a little bit of a pullback, as you've seen during the quarter. I mean, the stock market hasn't had a correction since March of 2009. Now we've had a little bit of these, what I'll call a little bit higher volatile periods where the market has kind of sold off a little bit as people kind of reassess risk. We had an election. It caused some changes in Congress, and so you're going to have a little bit more gridlock as a result instead of having one party. And so the market's kind of assessing, what does that mean? What does the policy look like? How is that going to impact growth and things like that, tax cuts and all of that stuff. And then the other thing you're seeing right now is the big thing that's overhanging is the tariff discussion around China. That's kind of been the biggest kind of overhang to the market. But, when the news is positive, the stock market rockets pretty hard. And when the news feels like it's a little bit negative, we're seeing a little bit more sell-off. And so people just don't want to take you're seeing the increased volatility because I think people don't want to have a position. They just want to say, okay, if we got good news, I'll take it, close it out at the end of the day, sell if it's bad. And then that's why we've seen a little bit more increase in volatility as a result of it. But again, volatility in the end has benefited this plan, and it typically does. You're always going to have volatility. It's just then if we need to make changes to the plan, okay, as we've seen some volatility, we'll do that. So we, have a conversation with Gloria. Okay, yeah, that allocation that I showed you on page 3, do we need to tweak that for, the market is now different. So do we want to tweak that to preserve capital, or do we want to be more aggressive? So we have those conversations with Gloria, and then if changes occur, she'll present the change. Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And I know that y'all are paying attention to our funds, and I saw that adjustment we did a few months back, maybe a year ago, where you saw a fund that was not maybe doing what we
Was struggling,
wanted,
yes, and that one's the other replacement is done very well.
That's exactly what we want you to do. If you see anything in the future that could struggle, obviously you made a positive change, because obviously the numbers reflect that. So, again, I appreciate the work y'all are doing, and everything's positive, and the retirees, appreciate it, and those that are going to retire appreciate it too. And we do too when we don't have to make that big contribution. So, and it doesn't affect our budget. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions of Jeff? Okay.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Gloria. Okay. The consent agenda. Are there any questions or comments?
Motion to approve.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Tonight, we have resolution number 2018-48, acknowledging the contributions and accomplishments of outgoing Commissioner Philip Rowland. I will read that. And Philip, if you'd like to come up. I know we have one for you, but as I read this, I'd like for you to be standing up here.
Might fall down.
Resolution number 2018-48, resolution of appreciation to Philip Rowland. A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Clewiston, Florida, acknowledging the contributions and accomplishments of outgoing Commissioner Philip Rowland. Whereas Philip Rowland has served for 6 years on the City of Clewiston City Commission, and during these years, he has displayed exemplary dedication to the best interests of the community by working for the betterment of its economic, cultural, recreational, and aesthetic development. And whereas Philip Rowland has given freely and willingly of his time, abilities, and skills, and has exhibited the fortitude to make difficult decisions. And whereas it is fitting that the City Commission pay tribute to Philip Rowland. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Commission of the City of Clewiston, Florida, that the City Commission on behalf of the citizens of Clewiston does hereby honor and express their appreciation to Philip Rowland for his distinctive and outstanding service and his unfailing and unselfish giving of time to the City of Clewiston and its citizens. This resolution of appreciation shall become a permanent public record of the City of Clewiston as a tribute to Philip Rowland's service to the City of Clewiston. And it is passed and adopted tonight's meeting on November the 19th, 2018. Is there a motion to approve resolution number 28? I have a motion and a second. And at this time, Philip, before we go ahead and just approve it, I know that we have one here for your records. And so if you could come up, I'd like for us to present it. And
Thank you.
And we do have the press here, so he'll take a picture, I hope, right? And so he's right there, so there's several of them here. Okay. Thank you, Philip.
Right,
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you.
I want to speak.
Okay.
We'll get my
Floor,
chance.
the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And just a couple of things that I'd like to talk about that I didn't accomplish. FMPA. I think I made a motion the first 3 or 4 months I was on the board to break the contract. I'm still standing here before you, and if I could make a motion tonight, I'd make the same motion. It's in checking with the city of Moorhaven, they pay 3.5 cents. We pay 6.2 cents. It makes no sense. The electricity is on a grid that you can buy from. FMPA, really? Yes, they'll send people down here, but FPL would send people here too. So It's one of the things that I never got through. We never broke the contract, so we're still at 30 years. Today, if we'd have got it passed 6 years ago, it'd be at 24 years. That's one thing. Next thing, golf course. There's a board in place. I would hope that we keep the board. I would hope that you give them more responsibility because they are 7 golfers. We increased the number on that board from 5 to 7. And they are all golfers. There's 5 men and 2 women that I think will do an outstanding job. If I had anything to say to y'all about the budget, I would really, really have the budget presented to that board before it came to y'all to make sure they supported it. I think that we got down to $200,000 last year. It was at $400,000 when I took office. I told y'all, which was a different combination at that time, but I told y'all that I thought that we could get it to less than $250,000, and we did manage to do that. I think it's a great asset to the city to go along with the lake and the people that come to fish and play golf. I know when I spent 25 years on the golf course board before I was ever on this commission, the highest we ever got was somewhere between 75 and 100,000, and it was the year that we put the sprinkler system in. And I think if we equated dollar value, that it would be around 200,000, even with the cost of the insurance and wages that have gone up. I think it's possible. You know, we cut prices. We did all kind of things the first year I was on the board. And certainly I wouldn't be embarrassed to take Jack Nicklaus to that golf course today. I mean,
Okay. Philip, thank you so much.
no, we did a lot of things.
Yeah.
But
All right.
And that's all. One other thing that I want to say, we had hired Al Perry while I was mayor. He's really done a good job. He really has. And he hired, and Danny Williams wouldn't be here if Al wasn't here. Manny Gomez wouldn't be here if Al hadn't been here. But there's been a lot of things and a lot of things thrown around in the last year or so. I just ask y'all, remember where you came from. Don't judge yourself by where you are today, but think back where you came from. Thank you.
Thank you, Philip. Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve resolution number 2018-48 on behalf of outgoing, to honor outgoing Commissioner Philip Rowland.
So moved.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thanks again, Philip.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, Philip.
Okay. Resolution number 2018-49 approves the state aid to libraries grant agreement and certification of hours, free library service, and access to materials between the state of Florida, Department of State, and the City of Clewiston. The state aid to libraries grant agreement was approved by the Commission on September the 24th, 2018. However, due to the discussions between the Department of State and the Department of Financial Services, language in the agreement was revised so that the grant funds in accordance with state law and regulations. Our city attorney has reviewed and updated the revised agreement and feels that it is sufficient. It has a financial impact of $179,898. We have the resolution 2018-49, along with the library's grant agreement and the grant certification.
Motion to approve.
Second. I have a motion and a second. And we do have tonight with us our library director, Natasha Hayes, and I'd like for her to come up at this time.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Natasha Hayes. How's everybody doing?
Good.
This was just, we had to go along with this in order to process and meet the deadline for the grant. And then this was being reviewed at the state level, and they wanted to make sure all the I's were dotted and T's were crossed. So the discussions between both the state and the financial service department come back, revise the grant, so it's back in front of you after it has been approved through them, so we can meet our December 1st deadline.
And again, it's resolution number 2018-49, a resolution of the City of Clewiston, Florida, approving a state aid to libraries grant agreement and certification of hours, free library service and access to materials between the State of Florida, Department of State, and the City of Clewiston. I believe I had a motion and a second. Is that correct, Kathy? Yep. Okay. Any further discussion? Any questions? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Natasha. Natasha, also just want to give you and the library staff a shout out. I know that y'all have been doing so much this past year, and we're so thankful for the work that's being done at the library. And truly, it's a place for the community to gather. So we appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Thank
if there's
you.
anything more we can do, just let us know.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, resolution number 2018-50, a resolution of the City of Clewiston, Florida, authorizing the acceptance of additional services proposal number 2 for additional architectural construction administration of the Clewiston Police Department building renovation project. Whereas the City of Clewiston and CPC Architects Incorporated entered an agreement for professional service for the architect to provide the necessary plans and drawings to renovate a former bank building into a new police station, and whereas additional time is needed for CPC Architects Incorporated to provide review of the remaining change orders. Section 1 is the attached additional service proposal number 2, and then Section 2 is the execution of the resolution on behalf of the City of Clewiston. Sherry, is there anything else you wanted to add on this?
There isn't.
Okay.
Other than the architect, again, felt like he needed more time to approve the change orders.
To review them and stay on track. I know we're ahead of schedule at the last meeting. I think that's what the city manager told us. But I know that there's some change orders, especially when it comes to the 9/11 consulting and general construction administration.
And he said, I don't have anything in writing, but in discussion, he did say to me that this was the worst case scenario, so to speak, that he did not feel that there was a possibility that we would not even need this additional, this amount.
Right.
Can we get a letter from him stating the hours that he's spent so far, what he's reviewed and when he's reviewed it?
Yes, and I'll actually the invoices show the percentage, but I will ask him.
Okay, and you looked at all those invoices, Sherry? As
Yes,
they're brought in?
when we
Okay.
get ready to pay them, I
Okay.
do. My office does review them for payment.
Okay. I know the chief is not here tonight, but we have our assistant chief, and I didn't know if there was anything else that she wanted to bring to our attention.
Oh, no, ma'am. Just that the oversight that we've had with CPC has been very useful.
Do we have a completion date for the remodel?
They're estimating that it could be sooner than projected, so maybe shortly after the first of the year, potentially February. There's not been a definitive date provided, but it is moving faster than we expected.
Okay.
Originally, we had heard March or April, so that would be good.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay. The recommendation is to approve resolution number 2018-50 with the additional request from Commissioner Atkinson.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Mayor, if I may, can I make one more request on this item?
Okay.
I'd like to know how much money we spent on architectural drawings on our next meeting total.
Okay.
From day one.
You're not
From-
talking just a CPC, you're
I'm
talking about
from day one.
overall.
I'm talking about, I know
think-
we've done about 2 or 3 renditions of it. Police station number 1, number 2.
You would
this is
have all
number 3.
since it's all grant funding, you have everything itemized
You
for the
do
grant.
have, you have that number, right?
And
If
we
you-
can
if you
get
don't
that
mind
to you.
sharing
We
that
can
with
send
us.
it to you all out tomorrow if you would like. I can send it out to each of you.
Appreciate it.
Okay,
Thank you.
that works. Thank you. Okay, resolution number 2018-51 amends the fiscal year 2018 budget to include the Block 201 utility relocation project. The commission approved the use of the water and sewer impact fees as a funding mechanism for the project on April the 17th, 2017, and project commenced in fiscal year 2018. A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Clewiston, Florida, adopting amendments to the budget for fiscal year 2017 and 18, 2017-18, and providing for an effective date. The summary of budget amendments are are actually included in this resolution, and the water sewer fund. Sherry?
This is just a budget amendment I did upon review. As you know, we're at the end of our year, and this was a project that I don't have to tell you that, we went back and forth as to what kind of funding mechanism was going to be utilized for it. So it was a little difficult to follow at times, and when I was reviewing some end of the year items, realized that we needed to get that on the books, that you did agree to use the water and sewer impact fees to fund it. And so this amount before you is, that is the project total with the Go Underground, the contractor, plus the engineering fees that we spent last year. To date, we've got a balance with the contractor of $19,888.76, which will probably, we'll need to carry over into the next year. But it was just important to get this on our books.
Okay. We do have the resolution. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second, and additional discussion. I know Scott is here tonight, and Scott, this goes back, and just for the public disclosure, is that the city applied for a USDA grant for this funding. The USDA rejected several things that were presented to them. One, their concerns with an engineering contract that dated back to probably back to the 70s. I don't remember exactly, Gary. I don't know if you remember exactly the date.
I do not.
72? Okay. And then the second issue was the bid documents. They did not approve the bid documents before the bid went out, so therefore they rejected the grant. And I know, Scott, you have updated us at different meetings about this project. Where are we at today on it?
The project is complete today. There's a desire to go a little bit further with the project and provide a water line to the block immediately to the west. And so we're considering a change order to hook up those homes to the water line that today is existing, and abandon the problematic asbestos concrete pipe in the alley.
Okay.
Not totally complete because we have paving behind my office that's still unpaved, right? Is that part of it?
I believe all the paving's been completed. I'll be happy to look at that with you.
I know that I had to send Al some pictures because I was concerned about the look of the paving that was done, and I still have that same concern because of the fact that there are still cones out there, and then when they
Those are from the
cut.
city's work, those cones.
Those comes with the city work, not the project work?
Right.
Okay. I think, from what I sent Al, and I haven't not gone back and talked to him about this, he was going to get with you on it. I was concerned at the way that asphalt was done, particularly at St. Martin's in the right of way there, as well as some of the other alley work that was done. But you're saying that work has already been accepted, the asphalt work?
We haven't made final payment on that work
Okay.
yet, but I think the work is acceptable for a patch job. There's different methods of paving, and there's the pavers where we overlay our streets is a wide bodied paver that does 8-foot to 12-foot lanes. And that has a screed in it that smooths the pavement as it comes out.
Okay.
It's a heated screed, it's very smooth. There's another screed that's not heated and it's less smooth. And then there's the jobs where you're patching, you don't have that big of a hole, so you can't use that machine. In those cases, they take asphalt out of a dump truck, place it in the hole with the proper tacking, and then compact the asphalt. And he had the proper equipment to do all that with the roller.
Okay.
And that Episcopal Church is a difficult spot to patch because it's in the swale there, and so it's not a smooth thing to patch. But I think all those patches are acceptable to the standard for
Okay.
asphalt patch.
So as a project manager, Johnson Pruitt is our city engineers, and they're the project manager. You believe that is acceptable, and do not see any issues with the patchwork going forward?
Yes, ma'am.
That we accept it like it is? Okay.
Scott, I want to make this clear. I drove the alley today, that Dixie Friday, the KFC alley, and there's cones there, and there's a broken asphalt there, and an entrance. You say that's a city responsibility or the contractor?
Yeah,
I mean, it's broken up. I mean, there's
Right,
no
the
doubt.
city's-
It needs to be repaved. I mean,
Yeah,
why
the
is it
contractors
the city?
paved it twice.
Why is it the cities now?
The asbestos concrete line broke again, and it was the 4th time it's broken. That's the reason we want to consider that change order to abandon that asbestos concrete line, because it's been a problem for the city, and we believe it'll continue to be a problem.
Well, I would
City.
say to hold up on that final payment until everybody up here on the board is happy.
Yeah, you
with
have
their
to.
work.
Yes, sir.
I mean, I don't even want to see it until everybody here, all 5 of us, and I'm not speaking for them, but to make sure that everybody's happy with this project. Now, obviously, I think we have a difference of opinion on, what's the right asphalt look or not, but I want to make sure that we don't send any money to these folks until everybody up here has all their answers, all those questions have been answered, is what I'm saying. So.
I understand.
Yeah, and,
yes.
and Sean, I know you're here. Sean, you're here.
Yes, sir.
What's the game plan on fixing that alley? Because it looks like is it our responsibility to fix that?
At this,
Feel that like it's our responsibility to fix the alley. It needs to be fixed. It's a trip hazard right now. Somebody's going to trip if somebody comes through there with a bike or walking. Somebody's going to trip, and then we got a lawsuit. So, I mean, do you agree that it's our responsibility to do that?
I can only speak to the knowledge that I have of it this far, and right now I do know that they have had. It has been paved. It had been done by the contractor, and then they've had a water break, and it was fixed, and then there was another water break. At this time, the damage that we see on the surface is due to city staff going in and making that repair. There has been no talk yet about bringing a paving contractor back in to make that repair, because I think they are still considering tearing it out and replacing it with something that is more reliable, and it would not make any real financial sense to go in there and pave it and tear it up a 3rd or a 4th time.
No.
But it is a problem right now.
I understand that, Sean. But my question is to you. We've got a contractor working on this project, right?
Yes.
How did the city now become responsible for the mess that's been there for 11 months? I mean, they've made several mistakes, and that's what we hired them for. How, and I haven't got the answers. How is the city now responsible at the end of the day to fix that alley when it's been a mess for 11 months?
Commissioner Rodriguez, I believe the city engineer should answer that question. because it is a utilities issue.
I mean,
Yeah.
okay.
And and the project management is under the city engineer.
Yes, we have a water line in that alley that we needed to make a connection to. We did not know what material that water line was when we bid the project out. So the contractor went in, uncovered it, realized it's an asbestos concrete line, which can be problematic, and they made the connection the appropriate way. They went to lunch and came back, and the line had cracked and leaked. And so they fixed it and buried it and let it settle. And then they came back and paved that alley. And a week or two after they paved it, we see water leaking up in that area again. So the pipe now has cracked further back away from their connection. Said, hey, we got a leak here. You guys got to come fix this. They came back, dug it up, fixed it again for the third time, buried it, let it settle, and then came back and paved it again. And that was where we left off. We proved him, told him that was done. Then it leaked. The asphalt's leaking again. We see water piping up through the asphalt. And so now we talked about it with Danny at the city, the utility director, and we decided that, there's some shared responsibility here. Part of it is they disturbed the ground and the line's leaking. The other part is it's our asbestos concrete water pipe, which is always going to be problematic to touch. And so with that shared responsibility, Danny pledged to make this repair.
The thing that I'm concerned of, Mr. Jones, is you work for us, right? And
Yes,
you're
sir.
supposed to be the guy that's out there defending, working on our behalf and working our case. And, these contractors will come in and they'll tell you whatever they want you to think. And I know you're experienced and that's your profession, but I think at some time you got to play hardball with these guys. They're supposed to do this project. They're supposed to finish it completely, get it clean, and now we're going to have to use taxpayers' money to fix it, additional taxpayers' money to fix it. What I'm saying is when I'm out there, I hope that you're representing us and not allowing these contractors to bully you, because, with all respect, because, they can come up with all the excuses they want, but at the end of the day, we've got to pay for it now, and we're responsible for it. And I just don't see how we're responsible for that. I mean, that should have been completed and done.
If the asbestos pipe, which has been there how long?
We don't know.
50
It
years?
was stopped. They stopped using it in '74, about early '70s.
Right. So if that's problematic, and two of the tie-ins that they've done have failed, how many more are going to fail? And for me, that pipe is ours. That was placed there by the city, and I think it would behoove us to take a look at replacing that and getting it done, so that we're not looking at, once it's paved again, we're going to go back a fourth time and a fifth time. Let's bite the bear and get it done.
The thing, I agree with Mr. Commissioner, but why don't we fix it right the first time? And say, this is the problem. Instead of breaking that asphalt 5 times, repaving it 4 times, why don't they tell us, look, this is a problematic area. You got to spend another $100,000 fixing this, or whatever that number is, and get it fixed. Why are we, we're kind of putting Band-Aids on it, and now at the end of the day, we're responsible for it. I'm saying, I agree with you, but if they would have told us that it needed to be replaced, that's what they should have told us from the get-go. I mean, they've been working in that
Probability, if
area.
they came the first time, would we have said, yeah, go ahead and fix it?
I mean, that attitude right there, our attitude right there, that's why we don't, we can't allow these contractors to come in and dictate the project, because you're in charge of it, and you're supposed to be monitoring and making sure that it gets fixed right, at the end of the day,
We had him patch that pipe 3 times and pave it twice.
I would have him pave it again.
And he's supposed to patch it once.
I would have him pave it again. If
And
we owe
pave
him
it
money, I
once.
would have him pave it again.
So I feel like I held his feet to the fire on
Yeah.
that.
You have
There's some
to.
shared responsibility, because our asbestos concrete pipe is our pipe, and we don't know what shape it's in. But apparently it's getting pretty fragile. And so the idea has come to the forefront that we can take the services off of Pasadena. We've got the 8-inch line on Pasadena. We can serve the Kentucky Fried Chicken, the attorney's office, and the motel. And with those 3 services, we can then abandon that.
So
asbestos
you're saying
concrete
is that
pipe.
the new line needs to go from Arcade to Circle Drive.
From
And so the
past-
line's there, we just need to tie in those businesses
Yeah,
from Arcade
The line's there, the services are there.
to Circle Drive.
Yes, ma'am. We've put that line in for the future of abandoning that alley.
Okay.
So there's services already attached to that 8-inch line on Pasadena.
So when will we have all that back to us? Are you working on that now, or do we need to give direction, or?
Yes, in the staff meeting Tuesday, we got direction to prepare a change order for that direction.
Okay.
So that's what I'm working toward now. The city manager pulled me off of that to work on something else this week, so that's not in your packet this week.
Okay.
But that's what we're proposing is a change order to fix that. We'll abandon that asbestos concrete pipe, and it won't be a problem again to the city.
Okay,
Is
so.
that asbestos pipe dead in at the end of that alley? That circle?
Yes, when it comes to Circle, we've got a valve there, and it becomes plastic pipe there.
Okay.
So that shouldn't be a problem going west.
Want to make sure whenever we stop it, we don't have the same problem with it.
Now, in the other alleys, on the other side of Royal Palm, is that asbestos? I don't know what's in those alleys.
Well, but the issue is this one because of the work that was done right here.
Right.
Okay. I know that, I think Commissioner Rodriguez said excuses from the contractor, but I know that we have a contract with this contractor. And I know that this contract was given out in January of 2018. Is that correct? January 2018, or the work
Yes.
started somewhere in there. And at this point, I know that there were some dates that were things were supposed to be done by those dates. I'd like for you to review that contract, Gary,
Will do.
and see, what else we might need to do, if anything at all. Okay.
All right.
All right. Just to make sure this Commissioner Rodriguez's concerns are addressed. Okay, any other questions of the city engineer? All right.
I have a question
Yes.
of the city attorney. Am I allowed to participate in this discussion since that is a client of ours, of the firm? Or,
The contractor is the client of the firm?
yes.
No, you should not participate in
No,
this discussion.
the owner of the hotel is
Well,
who
but
this
it-
project benefits is a client of the firm.
No, that's all right.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so is there anything that you wanted to say? Okay, all right. Anything else? We have a motion and a second to approve resolution number 2018-51. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Approval of change order CO-01 for the Clewiston Police Department Building Renovation Project. This change order is in the amount of $2,579.20 and is needed for the additional cost to the contract for reimbursement of fees to Borromeo Construction. I know the Assistant Chief is here. Sherry, I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add to this?
No, just that we did review. This change order represents the building permit fees for the project, and it was in the bid documents that we would take care of that. And we have to pay for them, even though we will basically pay ourselves, but we have to do that.
Through the
And so
grant.
that's what
Okay.
this is.
Okay. All right, is there a motion to approve the change order? Okay.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Marcy. Okay, item 7 and 8 were removed, so we're down to item 9. Public Works Director Sean Scheffler attended the recycling symposium held by the Florida League of Cities on November the 14th.
Yes, good evening, Madam Mayor and Commissioners. Yes, on the 14th of November, I did attend the recycling symposium in Orlando that was sponsored by the League of Cities. And though it may not have answered quite all of the questions that I had going into it, there was a lot of information that was shared that brought a lot of new light to the recycling, the reasoning for it, and where we are today and what would be expected as we move forward. The first thing that I and a lot of other people in the state of Florida were under the assumption that the 75% recycling was a mandate. As it turns out, it was never intended to be a mandate. It was merely a goal that had been set. In fact, former Senator Lee Constantine, which was responsible for writing the bill and getting it through, said that he knew at the time that that was a goal that was not likely to be met, but that the bar had to be set at a high enough rate that people would take it seriously. As it is right now, the state of Florida is at about 62%, which he commended everybody for their efforts. But he also went as far as saying, there's only two other countries in the world that are, that are higher than we are, or in the United States, and that would be Germany and Sweden, and they're only at like about 68%. So we are behind in the game, but not that far off of the mark. Now, were we meeting the goal as to the intent of the bill when it was sent through at the time? Well, no, we were not hitting that intent. The intent was to reduce or eliminate materials that went into the landfill that could be recycled or reused. Some of the larger cities and counties and communities have come up with some very ingenious ways of getting their recycled numbers up and getting them out of the line of sight of the DEP that was watching this. Example of that kind of stuff is that they would use the reclaimed water out of their wastewater plant as it was pumped and used on golf courses and in sports complex. Therefore, they counted every gallon as recycled. They would take stuff like the millings. Whenever they would mill or pave a road and mill it, they would take the millings that they took up, count it by the ton, use it somewhere else as recycled. They even went as far as taking the ash that come out of their waste to energy plants, sold it to farmers, land applied it, therefore calling it recycled material. Even for a bit of a stretch of the imagination, took the solid waste that they sent to waste to energy facilities and changed it from going to a landfill into an energy source as recycled numbers, which is not exactly the intent of the bill when it was presented and approved. So the DEP went back and had to reevaluate what they were asking for and what it was achieving. They decided they needed to rethink the situation and change it from recycling of materials to recycling of shapes. Now they want people to start thinking on the lines to recycle plastic jugs and plastic bottles. They want people to recycle aluminum cans and tin cans. They want people to recycle newspaper and white paper. They do not want to get the confusion of metal, aluminum, and plastic and its different categories such as that, because they were getting a lot of contamination in the recycle stream, which therefore caused the rejection of a lot of loads of recycle. The fact that these loads were being refused not only brought an economic impact on the United States, because a bale or a load of recycle that was shipped overseas, when we could, before China stopped receiving our recycled plastics, is that a load can only have less than 5% contamination. They found that it would have to be at least 25% of contamination when it went to their processing floor for them to get it into that 5% range. Even at that, they were finding there were a lot of loads that they had to turn away, and it went there, which was, again, starting to describe and clearly show the problems that they were having. Now, with all of these things in place, it makes you wonder, well, how do they stop this kind of stuff from happening? And a couple of things that they did bring up during the course of the symposium is that we have to do a better job of educating the public in what we recycle and how we recycle. They felt like there was, and I believe it to be true in Clewiston, there was a segment of the population, the Hispanic segment of our population, that is not getting the information merely because we are not using the right avenue to get there. We don't have a Spanish-speaking person promoting those kind of things, which is something I feel that we should do as quickly as possible. You know, another thing is that they need to be re-educated on what to go into what location and what is not accepted. So with all of those things in place, they even encourage that we have a dedicated person to recycling, somebody that could monitor, somebody that would keep up with the data and keep the reports going in place. This person would be responsible for the training and doing spot inspections throughout the recycling courses and have the authority to tag and refuse loads that were plainly contaminated by a curbside inspection. And if it was a repeat offender, that they make a visit before a magistrate and explain to the magistrate why they can't comply with the recycling situations. So where does that leave us today? Well, as it is today, we are still required to have a recycling program. We don't have the burden hanging over our head that we have to hit a percentage. We have to have a program in place doing so. Preferably, they want to make sure that we start in the residential communities and then look to the businesses. And most businesses are already doing their best because it helps with their bottom line. I think the conclusion of the situation was that about 90%, if not more, of the recycling that are picked up and handled throughout the United States is done by contractors. They have the equipment, they have the contacts with the recycle companies, and the ability to move it. And the contractors are extremely large nationwide contractors, therefore they do have access to overseas situations to get rid of the stuff. So that is basically what we learned throughout the time there.
Okay. If I remember correctly, though, that Hendry County is responsible for recycling within the city and out in all the entire areas.
We fall under the umbrella of Hendry County. We have an agreement from 1989, I believe it is, and it is still in place today, so this calls for further discussion between the city and the county. I would say that the city manager would.
Okay. I'd like to have an update on that for next month's meeting, please.
Okay.
Okay. Gary, have you reviewed those documents?
I have.
Okay.
It is the county responsibility.
Okay.
That is not a required mandatory percentage on the city.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you, Sean. Is there any questions of Sean before he sits down? Okay. Thank you. Okay. And at this time, it's public comments. Any person is allowed to speak on any matter that pertains to city business. Just come forward and state your name for the record.
Raul Batella, I think that we've had several recycling bins in LaBelle, and they don't distinguish any material from any other. Everything goes into all of them, as far as I know, without any distinction.
Okay.
I was just wondering whether the auditor for the town would continue as the same, as far as we know. Is David going to continue to do it?
I haven't heard anything different. I don't believe we've received any notification from him to the commission. Okay.
Good evening. My name is Jerry Cochran. I was here 2, maybe 3 meetings ago and asked about the condition of the boat docks. Thank you for doing, I think it's kind of a stopgap, but it's a big improvement, putting the rubber bumpers down there at the docks. It's a big improvement. Unfortunately, we put over rotten wood, but they should hold up for a couple of years, and they're much superior to what was there before.
Jerry, do you have specific pictures that have you shared with Al and the city staff on what your concerns are?
I don't have any concerns any longer.
Okay, all right.
Just the bumpers were put over rotten wood, which is, They're probably not going to last as long as they should, but what we got is satisfactory for now, and it should hold up for 2, maybe 3 years before that wood just totally rots out.
Okay.
The guys did a good job on it. Comment on the golf course. You know, we got a golf course that's running at a deficit. The figures I got are about $258,000. I don't have the source of them, but that's the figure I wrote down on my notes. 2 things I were looking at: a golf membership. We set a rate for golf membership. If Mr. Atkinson and I decide to go down and get a yearly membership tomorrow, you pay 27% more than I do for that membership. If Sean and I decide to go down and get a membership, he pays almost 14% more than I would, because we're putting in, we've already given a discount for yearly memberships, but when we're rewarding people who use the golf course a lot, and that's a common deal. I understand that. But to have more discounts because people are over 60 or over 70 when we're running a deficit is absolute nonsense. We've got a sport that is pretty much static. We want to encourage younger people to play golf. And by charging them an increased fee or a non-discounted fee, I think we're doing a disservice to the community. Whatever the rate is that y'all set, it should be the same for everyone. I shouldn't be getting 27% discount over Mr. Atkinson simply because I'm over 70. I think that's nonsense, and I would like y'all to look into that and maybe do something about it next year. The other thing that, I'm trying to think of a way to put this politely, and that upsets me is we've got a rate for the golf course, and the golf course is being subsidized with taxpayer money. We all acknowledge that. I'm not going to debate that because that decision has been made. But what does upset me is that somebody out in the county, whether they're in Flaghole or Montura or any other place, they're paying the same rate for a membership as a citizen of Clewiston. That's what y'all been arguing about for years, that the school board wasn't paying their fair share and the county wasn't paying their fair share for recreation. We got people in the county that live in the county that are members that aren't paying their fair share either. And if we got somebody out that's not a resident or citizen, I think their membership fee should be increased over the citizens of Clewiston. That makes sense, because otherwise they're getting a free ride, and I'm not too big on free rides. Okay. I'd appreciate if y'all look into that, because y'all got a millage problem next year. You're going to have to raise the millage again. No question about it. Because of the homestead exemption that passed, the city, you can't afford to eat all that money. You're going to have to absorb. You may absorb some of it, but you can't absorb all of it. So you're going to have to raise the millage. And just to editorialize, that amendment is most unfair, in my opinion.
I think that amendment failed.
Yeah,
That was only one that failed.
the Amendment 1 continued to leave everybody with their homestead exemption. But the one that our property appraiser came and discussed with us did not pass because it didn't meet the 60% threshold. It got 58%, but it didn't meet the 60%
Okay, I apologize.
threshold.
That's good.
Okay.
I'm glad I voted against it. I just thought it was unfair that people like me that live in a more affluent neighborhood, you're going to give me $1 break and take 50 cents back. The people in the less affluent neighborhoods, they're not getting any break, but they're going to come back and get hit with another 25 or 30 cents. I didn't realize that. I apologize. And please consider the comments on the golf course, because we can't continue to run a deficit like that, in my opinion.
And Kathy, since Jerry's made those comments specifically about the golf course, could you make sure that those are brought to the golf course advisory's attention, please?
I'm just looking for a way to reduce the cost. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think some of the questions we need to ask Mayor too is, are we giving additional discounts for ages and stuff? I'm not sure if we're doing that. Are you aware of that? We're doing that?
The seniors, I
different
think there was a
thresholds?
seniors and everything. I mean, everybody pays a 10% capital improvement fee on their rate.
But the membership.
But we can ask Sherry to make sure, or
Yes, it is structured by age. It is.
okay. So if you,
The starting annual fee for a membership, which does include the 10%, starts out $9.25. Then when you're 60, you get a break. I believe it's $6.25, and then 70, it goes down again. It is a rate schedule that has been in place. I'm not a golfer, so I don't really know. It has been bantered around that is customary at golf courses, but we can review it, and I will make sure that the comments are shared. We will
Right.
between Kathy and
And
myself.
also the rate, the rate structure here, and just bring that back to the advisory board's attention as well.
We'll make sure the comments are shared.
Okay.
And that it's looked into and reevaluated again.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening.
Mr. Sullivan?
Brian Sullivan, how are you?
I'm good. And just for the record, Brian, I know that you sent the city clerk a letter, and then the city manager sent the letter to all the commissioners. So we did receive your
Great.
letter.
Great.
And I guess that's why you're here tonight.
I am. And I hope that you take a look at things, because we're having an awful time with community development. I mean,
Okay.
we keep a log of our inspections, and it's a horror story. It really is. I mean, we used to build houses here 3 months, no more than 4. Now we're 6 and 7 on these little houses. The cost overruns. It's got to stop.
Okay, and Mr. Sullivan, in your request is that you wanted us to see, looking at just a review of the permits and the
functions,
the functions,
the
okay.
performance.
The inefficiency is what
Exactly.
your concern was about.
Yeah, I mean, because as inconsistent as it is in our world in the field, there's no way that it can be functioning the same way when we had 20 jobs in the ground before and we were kicking inspections and everything getting done. Now we've had to slow down to a couple of jobs.
Okay, all right. The city manager is not with us tonight, but I believe that in your request, I mean, it's just you're just asking us to review the process and to take a look at it and see if it is doing. Is there any way to speed up any delays and to look at it? And it's not comparing it to 2007.
Right, just take a 2-year period, and then I picked 7 and 8 over and 17 and 18 just in that period, because that's when we started that project, and we had no problems. And now we're just fraught with them. We can't seem to even pass an inspection in town now.
Okay.
Brian, I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Here recently, we've approved some more funding to get an additional inspector. Now, that you're telling me that that's not working?
Well, let me give you my first impression of them. We're doing a job, U.S. Sugar, has 2 layers of sheathing. I call in a sheathing inspection. I tell my boys, you have both layers nailed off so he can inspect. I want to make sure he can see it. Okay. I get a call a couple hours later. Hey, the inspector says, you got to cover this up. I said, what do you mean cover it up? He said, he wants it dried in. Really? Well, do what he says. So he did it. He wouldn't look at it, so we dried it in. So he never seen the sheathing. That was
That
my
was done
first.
by a phone call. Is that what you're saying?
That was my first impression. I thought, dang, that's different. But then, my second impression was worse. He failed an inspection at the sugar company again. Listed some things. I personally went there. I look. I don't see it. It's all right. So I filed a letter, asked the building department, put it in my file that I looked at it. It looks good to me. I contest that inspection. Crickets. I don't hear nothing. 2 weeks goes by. I said, you know what? I got to know. I called the design engineer. I said, man, I need you to come down and look at this. Make sure, because I don't do metal trusses a lot. So I wasn't positive, but I didn't hear anything from the building department, so I better know. So I had the expense of bringing the engineer down. He looks at it. No, it looks good. I'll sign whatever you need me to sign. My third impression was even worse. Called in 2 rough plumbing inspections. Now, I have my plumbers come in, and they take an excavator, and they get the plumbing deep. Don't lay it on top so that it can get messed up. It comes underneath the footer with a clearance of the footer. So the bottom of the footer's here, you got a bunch of dirt, then the pipe. Well, he fails it, both of them. He wants the pipe sleeve coming out. Sleeving it. Well, we can't, we've already lost a day for a failed inspection. Do whatever he wants to do. Sleeve the pipe, I don't care. But in the meantime, I go there, I take pictures. Why? I request, where's the code? What code are you failing this on? Gives me a code on annealed spaces. Annealed spaces being the space between two orbs, about penetrations. The problem is there's no penetration. It's under the footers, clear. That's the whole purpose. And so yet now it costs me $400 or $500 to get the work done. Then I got delays, $400 or $500, another $1,000. And you can't do that on them little houses. And it's just one right after the other after the other. We're not, so if that was to solve a problem, Mr. Rodriguez, didn't really work.
Okay.
So I just ask you to, I don't want to be a complainer. I don't want to be a troublemaker. I just want everybody to do their job. I just want to work. I got 15 lots left in town. If I had houses on them all, I'd have them sold by the end of the month. We're getting 2 or 3 calls a day, and I can't get them built. And we should be looking at doing new subdivisions right now, and not just trying to get out of here. So please take a look at it, guys.
Okay.
You got a problem.
We will. We will. Thank you.
I know one problem, 2007, 2008, there was a fire marshal, code. There was several more people in that office that isn't there today.
Right.
We got Travis doing 4 people's jobs, and Debbie left. Debbie was huge. Debbie knew everything.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's got 2 brand new girls in there doing permits. So of course that slows it down.
Sure.
I think when somebody's going to retire, we need to get someone new for 4 months, 6 months, so they can do the process with them and learn.
Yes. Okay.
3 or 4 weeks doesn't cut it.
Okay. And I know that there was some in-between time. There was the other personnel in there as well. Whatever the reason, whatever the process that's happened from that point to this point, we have to look at it as a city, because we've got to fix it. If those issues have to be addressed. So I know the city manager's not with us tonight, but that letter was simple, a review, and I believe that review needs to be done, and it needs to be brought back to the commission of what was requested.
Would you put a
the
time
process.
certain on it then, please? Because that letter came out a little bit ago.
Okay. I don't know how long a review like that would take. I mean, I know
It can't take a long time because, look,
It's there. They go look at the paperwork and
It won't take a long time. Most of it's automated, even some of the older stuff we brought into the system. City manager has looked at some of it, but I would extend courtesy to any one of the commissioners. Please come into the building department, talk with the staff. They can print it out for you. They can sit, and they've already started on some of this. They already have codes together for you.
Okay. So we'll just get a report at the next commission meeting then?
The report, but,
Okay.
but please stop by.
Okay.
Is it
The
possible?
education you can get on that is invaluable.
Is it possible that we can get, like, I see your report, so I'm just learning how all this works, but it looks like you give a report at every meeting with regard to what you guys are doing. And in Highlands County, I can see what they're doing because they actually print electronically that you can see it on their website that shows these are all the permits that we issued. This is their status. Can we just see that instead of seeing these numbers?
We can print just about anything. If you want to see it online, there's additional.
But I want to see it every meeting. Can we just see it every meeting instead of this report? Just print it out
We can
and.
print out a list of permits and
Yes.
probably addresses and all that stuff.
And the status of them, Travis, please, where they're at. Have they been the final inspection? Are they still in the process? I'd like to know where those are at. Okay.
There's a wealth of information on it. What I can do is, for at least the first couple of months, I can print out the whole package.
Because-
And then you choose what you would like to continue to see. But,
Okay.
What Mr. Sullivan said, no, I don't say anything. No, he's not in the room. But
You can say it.
Well, but I'd like for you to come to the podium, please. I want to make sure because this needs to be recorded.
Travis Reese, Community Development Director.
we do strive for, I would love to have 100% customer satisfaction. I've failed some with Mr. Sullivan. Commissioner Atkinson is correct. I appreciate you pointing that out. We have lost about 20 years of experience in our permitting department with Ms. Towner and Ms. Moore retiring. It's been a struggle, and actually we lost a third person that was a great asset, but she moved on. So we have new people in there. We're working towards that. The inspectors, during budget time, you asked what I needed. I told you we needed some additional help there, and you granted that. The counties, we signed an interlocal agreement with the county. Hendry County is now assisting us. As you know, that inspector found employment elsewhere. That's how we ended up with the private inspection company we're using today. So we've had...
And that's through the county, the private inspection company?
That's correct. We use the same inspection company they've used. They've now, I believe, in the preliminary stages of hiring a new inspector. They finally found one after several months. They're training him up. Eventually, that person will be able to help us again. So we're moving forward. I think the inspections are getting done in a timely manner, and I'll print that out in a report to show when requested, when they're actually completed. But there was a gap, and we have slowed. There was a time that we did slow down, and there's several other things in there. He was asking about fees, and all that I can share with you. Staff is starting to put that together. So I can show you from inception, the years he's asking for, what the impact fees were, what the building fees were, when we made changes, and what they are currently. But I wish Mr. Sullivan was here. We'll try 110% with him, but we have to regulate him. And I know that is for some contractors. Commissioner Rodriguez, you said it best. Contractors sometimes are very hard. They have to be pushed. Even though I'm in a customer service business, they still have to have proper inspections. The laundry list that he went through tonight about how inspections can fail in code sections, that inspector brought it to me. The inspector was correct. When he penetrated a foundation, he needs a sleeve. He said he didn't penetrate the foundation, so the sleeve doesn't need to be sealed. That's not the case. If you choose to use it, you have to seal it. Two pipes can't touch each other. Just don't install it. Once you install something, you have to follow how that code is. I know it gets complicated. I don't want to get into that.
Yeah, and you're
It's for some other time, but I can assure you.
But you did mention fees. You did mention fees, and I guess
yes.
I'm just the fees, and I'm looking at this, and I don't see that mentioned in here unless I've missed it.
I thought I read it in there. I only received that letter last week.
Me too.
I was surprised that it wasn't addressed to me. I wish you would come and talk to me. The only time I've ever talked to Mr. Sullivan, the only concerns he had was, I wish I could get inspections next day.
Okay.
And I called around. That's not really the case. There's also how fast we can get inspections. We can usually get them within no more than about 72 hours. And inspections are milestones. We're doing most of our residential on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So if you're planning a project at a milestone that you know you need an inspection, it's not difficult to schedule that. There are exceptions to that. There are times when you need to pour concrete in the middle, 6 o'clock in the morning. We'll be there for that, but we'll make pre-planned arrangements.
Do we have all that spelled out, Travis? Is it written exactly what the permit process is and the inspections, when they'll take place after they're called?
Just a small, not like I would like it to see.
Okay.
We just have
I
a
think
little blurb that
I think we need to look at
yeah,
that. And
all
also, you mentioned the fees. It's not in here, so.
I thought it was. It may be in another one. He sent,
Okay,
I think,
all right.
two separate letters.
Okay, well, then I'd like to know that as well. How are our fees compared to Hendry County, to Highlands County, to Okeechobee County?
We can
Please.
certainly
Okay.
find
We
it for you.
adopted the same fees as
The
the
county,
last
that
year.
was my
Yeah,
impression,
yes,
right,
yeah.
but I just
In
want to make sure.
2007 and 8, we were considerably, to give you a quick idea, like special exception or variance was $75. They're now $500, $1,500, following what the county does. You were spending a lot more money to do that. And keep in mind, the building department fees do not pay 100% of the personnel cost over there. So you have to subsidize it with ad valorem tax to do that. So we did raise those fees. We got closer to that, fill that gap, but I don't think we'll ever get that gap closed. But the closer we get, the better. But I don't think our fees are absorbent.
I got a recommendation, just because of the fact that we have an inspector that's coming in, and of course, you don't know, you and him may be looking at things differently, even though there's a code, but, things look different to people, even though it's a law, the law applies to everybody. And we know that we have to be a customer-friendly department because we depend. That's where our growth is at. You know, people want to build, you know, like the Med Express, which I think is a beautiful addition to our city.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be very nice. I think that if you have a problem like Mr. Sullivan, where he keeps failing inspections, and it's the other inspector, which you don't really know that well. You know, you don't have that good.
We don't have a
you
personal
haven't met him. I mean, he's fairly new to the area, whatever. You should step in. I recommend if you step in and you go to that job site, and to make sure to make sure that what he's seeing is correct, and both of you maybe get together and talk it over, and to see if we're at fault or the bottom line is we've got to find a solution to it. So, as we put these funds in, I know it's a lot of more work for you, but you and him got to get on the same page. You know what I'm saying? Especially with Mr. Sullivan, which was repeated problems. I think you got to step on the job site and you got to say, look, what's the problem here? Let's fix it.
I can tell you.
I mean, you may be doing that already.
I can tell you the staff takes a collective sigh if Mr. Sullivan fails an inspection. I know about it immediately. They bring it to my attention.
Not him, anybody.
Now, I'm talking about just that one.
Yeah.
They'll bring it to me immediately because they know that Mr. Sullivan is not happy if he fails an inspection, and no one should want to. But failing inspections, it's not like at school. It's not like you've got a failing grade. It's not saying you're substandard. It's just saying something wasn't correct. The one we talked about earlier that Mr. Sullivan brought up, I went the next day. When the staff told me that he had failed that inspection, he was upset. He sent a photograph in showing that he was below the footer. I went to the site. I got in my truck. I drove out there. It's a significant issue to me. That's something I take personally. I want to see if the inspector was correct. I couldn't tell. The work had already been covered. It shouldn't be covered, but it was already covered. So now we'll work through it and keep in mind, he hires licensed subs. It was the subcontractor's responsibility to do it correctly, so we're working with the subcontractor to make sure it's done correctly. They'll go out and uncover one, and if the one's correct, that they made the repair, then that's fine. And we do that for everyone, but I want to have 100% customer service. I would love to. But as being a building official, my first job is to the building safety. I live in a Homer Roberts house. I don't know Homer Roberts, never met the man, but he built about 100 houses here in town. I'm sure the original owner paid for that house. They worked together with it. Hopefully the building department did a great job because my house is a pretty good house. But there are others in town. So that's where I have to protect the house, the building safety, make sure it's built to code.
So on all the houses, you actually, well, not right now, but you have inspected the inspector or you look at the safety issues of each house, whether it's a brand new home, whether it's a re-roof, whatever it might be.
Personally,
you look at those to make sure that all those issues, any concerns are addressed.
Right. Within the scope of the permit. There's sometimes, and if there's a huge building safety issue, we'll go a step further and point it out and say, wait a minute, you have a problem here. But typically what we do is look in the four corners of the permit. Is anything they're touching out of code compliance? Then we'll write them on that.
So did you talk to Mr. Sullivan after you went out and saw the project?
I actually went to his job site this morning. He wasn't there at U.S. Sugar, and I spoke with the administrator at U.S. Sugar and made sure they had any problems.
But this happened 2 weeks ago, or
no, this failed inspection happened last week.
And did you talk to him after you went back?
I have not. No, I did not want to be the. I instructed the staff to call the subcontractor. I did not want to call Mr. Sullivan, tell him to go uncover those pipes. I'd rather deal directly at this point with the licensed sub who did the work and let them know, look, you have a failed inspection. Your contractor has been notified, but ultimately it's the subcontractor who has to make it right. Because he's managing. He's not actually doing the work himself.
Well, I think the bottom line is that, Mr. Sullivan has been here since 2007. He's built a lot of homes in the city of Clewiston. There's developments that he spearheaded and along with other local business partners. And I think that his concern is elevated to us now. And his concern, we need to address it. So I'm not only looking for what he's requesting in his letter, but I'm also looking from the city manager a recommendation of how we're going to resolve this issue. Whether it's new people being hired, whether it's too much responsibility, we've got to look at it because we're going to miss the opportunity for growth in our community if this issue is not addressed, and the reputation of the city is at stake because of what contractors might be saying or subcontractors might be saying. So I want it addressed. I want us to know by next month's meeting where we're at and how we're going to resolve the issue.
One comment I have is, please check with your other contractors, because Mr. Sullivan is one of only 2 contractors that have had complaints against me saying that our building department, and I say me personally because I take it, when you complain about the city, I do take it personally.
Okay.
Check with them. There are tons of them out there. You mentioned units. I just did 50. Our department just did 50 units. Yes, there were failed inspections there, but I think they're very happy. You can talk to the owners of McDonald's, the Nesbitts, talk to them how, they failed some inspections. They were happy about it because they gained compliance. So if you just seek those out, not just the ones I recommend, just pick any of them. I think that's a true test of what customer service we're putting out there. Just ask around. I think that people will be more than willing to talk to you about it. And they'll probably tell you they failed inspections.
Clewiston is one of the easiest places to pull a permit. And I pulled permits way before I was on planning and zoning or the commission, and the service has not changed because I'm a commissioner. I get the same service when I go in there as I've always have. And it is by far the easiest out of, from Palm Beach, Fort Myers, Homestead, Orlando, Ocala. We work all over the state. And they are by far the easiest. Not always perfect, but, they will
try.
They will go, if you call them and tell them, hey, I forgot to do this, can you inspect it? He'll make an effort to go above and beyond.
Okay.
I'll make my final comments on this. I think, to be fair to the department and Travis, I think you got one of the most important jobs in our city because you're tied into all the growth. And if what Commissioner Atkinson's saying that, we've given you too many hats, I want you to be the best building inspector in Florida or in the country. And I want you to do a good job. And you're capable of doing it. There's no doubt. I'm not questioning your ability. But at the same time, you hold a very important one. When a customer comes to Clewiston to build a business here, the first people they see is your department because they want to know, how do I do it? What do I got to do? So we got to make that department the best department in the city. That's got to be, the gold standard there. And if we brought you some help. And those people that you got to make sure they're doing their job too when they come in. We got the best inspector coming in because we don't want to hold up any growth. And if whatever we got to do, whatever you don't feel comfortable that we're not giving you the tools that you need. We need to know because I think, and I know that you're capable of doing it, and that department is got to be, like I said, the gold standard. So we got to continue talking because when people come to town and you want, especially now that we want to grow 27 a quarter and new business, more Med Express, more hotels, restaurants, all these things that are all over, all over 27 up north and that we want to be part of. We got to make sure, we got our act together in the department. And I know you're experienced, you've been to class, you've done it. And I know you take pride in doing it. So, whatever we got to do to make that department the best, we got to do it.
Yeah, and that's why I'd like to see the recommendations. Okay.
Mentoring is the only thing I would say. Mentoring.
What
throughout the
hats do
city.
you wear?
Would be helpful.
What everybody's talking about hats. Can you tell me what hats you wear?
Well, I'm a building official, fire marshal, planning and zoning director, your emergency manager, your fire marshal, fire chief.
So from 2007, what all has changed from there?
Well, in 2007, as far as staff, when I started, when you hired me in the building department, you had Tommy Chipman, which was an inspector for me. So it was 2 full-time inspectors. You had a full-time fire marshal, and you had a code enforcement officer, which also did all the zoning inspections for sheds and non-structural things that weren't state required, which were city required. So it was easier then, but times were better then. We've cut the department by what was 5. It's down. Well, at one time probably 6. Now we're down to 3.
So why are we making you wear all those hats?
It's just economics. we've tried to do more with less. Every department has. I can't stand up here and say I haven't. My department has been reduced because of economics. There's only so much money in the budget, and there's only so much to go around.
Right. But also technology came into play as well, where everything, a lot of
It
stuff
does
was.
less paperwork
Right,
work to shuffle.
right.
Yes, ma'am.
So there's been some trade-offs, but I think that this is a good time to have the discussion, and I'd like to see recommendations on what we need to do to meet the needs of the community, and to address the issues. So, and the hats, too many hats might be what needs to be looked at as well, or responsibilities in that department. So,
Well, the private inspection company has helped, and with the county bringing theirs back on, I feel confident, and I do feel confident, and I think a good gauge is talking to your contractors. I'm all for more help, but I think we're at a point as people get better at their jobs, being new people, not that they're lacking it, they're just lacking in knowledge and experience. It takes them longer to get something done. Mentoring is a word you heard me say earlier, and I hope you take that to heart. I heard the commission say that earlier tonight. In a small community, that's key. We can't afford to bring in people from the outside. Hendry County can't afford to bring people from the outside. You have to train them in-house, bring them up, and hope they want to live here and stay here. Thank you.
thank you. Okay, anybody else with any city matters? Did you have anything? No? Okay.
Ralph Vitale, this doesn't come up too often, but tonight, Mr. Attorney, you had a city commissioner up here whose livelihood depends on favorable treatment from the existing permit issuer. And he was in this position tonight of speaking out to defend the performance being done by an employee of his. Do you think there's no conflict that perhaps the city commissioner here should be told this, since it's a place where you could benefit from favorable treatment by the building inspector? Perhaps you should not participate in this particular conversation.
Okay, that what you just described does not constitute a conflict of interest requiring one to file a conflict form and to abstain from commenting on the issue.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any other public comments at this time? Okay, usually at this time, each commissioner is, the city attorney, then the city manager brings up anything that needs to be brought up. I'll start with the city attorney at this time.
Nothing right now. Thank
Okay.
you.
I know our city manager is not here. Is there anything else, Sherry, that you need to bring up? Or Kathy, is there anything that we need to bring up before we adjourn? Okay. Commissioner Rodriguez, I'm going to start with you first tonight.
Oh, thank you. I don't have a corsage, but at least you gave me the honor. Thank you. I guess, folks, as I get older, my patience is wearing out a little bit, but, I still try to see the glass half full, so,
Pass it down to him. Commissioner Peterson wanted you to have that.
Thank you. Couple of questions. Travis, where's Travis? Travis, I talked to you earlier about the car stops at the Sugarland Plaza. I like to see those taken down, and if they want to do a proper curve there, I would rather see that. And I don't know how everybody else feels, but I don't think we should give them. We don't need to give them an option for that. I think we need to go with a curve, and I like to hear your advice, or what are you going to do about it, or what do you think, or.
Commissioner Rodriguez is speaking about is near Subway and the Royals Plaza. There's a sidewalk there that has been getting damaged. It's just recently was put back in place. It's been damaged, and Public Works Department has instructed them that if they break it within the next year, they're going to have to replace it. Their cost. We're not going to replace it. So in an effort to do that, I'm assuming that's the reason they went and installed parking stops along the edge of it to keep folks from driving over it. Aesthetically, it looks not pleasing. I do need to talk with probably council and Public Works regards to the safety of the sidewalk, because it's not a proper curb. Is there anything there? So I'll have to get back to you on that, but I agree it doesn't look good. I don't know if we can do anything about it, but I'd rather confer with my colleagues first.
One thing that I want to talk about, I know, and maybe Mr. Jones, you can help us on this. I understand, and I rode with Al. I rode the site with Al, and I know they were supposed to pour a 4-inch sidewalk, 6-inch, and they poured a 4-inch sidewalk, and for some reason we didn't make them break it up and pour it as a 6-inch like it was spec'd out. Am I correct? I mean, am I correct by saying what I'm saying? I know I drove the side with Al. Al said they didn't pour the proper sidewalk. So apparently what they did to fix the problem, they put those ridiculous looking car stops there, right? So people don't drive over the lawn and over the side and crack it. My question is, why didn't we make them pour a 6-inch curb there, sidewalk, and we left it at a 4? And is that correct what I'm saying? I mean, I want to make sure if you let us know. Can you please give us some information on that? Why? Go ahead.
Sir. Yes, sir. I can give you information on that. The plans that were approved by the city said replace the existing sidewalk. They worked with the city to get the city to pull up the sidewalk and haul it off, and it was a 6-inch sidewalk. The contractor that was hired to pour the new sidewalk didn't haul the old sidewalk off. So he looked at the plans, and the plans show a typical detail of 4-inch sidewalk, and he put it back as 4-inch. And so our solution to that was, we're not going to allow this sidewalk to be cracked and become the city's issue. So we need you to put a 6-inch sidewalk in there to prevent any cracking from happening from vehicles driving over it. At the same time, we've had an issue with the way that the sewer line was installed there, and we've had the developer agree to leave that in place for a year, and if there's any issues with that sewer line, he will have to dig it up and replace it. And so we've said, let's don't replace the sidewalk today when you might have to dig it up in 12 months. Let's replace the sidewalk 12 months from now if there's any cracking.
So what happens if in 3 years now we got to replace it and the city has to pay for it? Because the 12-month period is done and it didn't crack and fine. Again, that's the kind of things that I think, Travis, if they made a mistake, they should have had to go back with a 6-inch sidewalk, because we're going to have to pay for that down the road. And then if not, then they put that ridiculous curve there that looks terrible. I mean, you got a brand new center there that's very active, and that's where you want it, full, 200 or 300 jobs there, the new Medic Express, and all good. And then we got that ridiculous looking curve, and then we got a foot. That's what I'm saying. Some of the things. Why not say you got to go in there and change it? Don't give these contractors. Don't let them tell us what to do. We tell them what to do as a city. That's unacceptable. That sidewalk gets cracked all the time because you're right. People drive over to go to Subway or go get a bottle of liquor, so they go straight through there. They don't even go around the entrance. So why not make them break it up and go with a 6-inch sidewalk like it's supposed to? I mean, that's my point. I mean, if I give a bad plate of chicken, I can't say no. I got to give them another one. I got to give them a good one. If I burn the chicken, I got to give them a good piece of chicken that they're happy with. Customers, they demand that of me. That's why we say we got to demand that of them, because then we see all these things, and what happens is 3 or 4 years on the road, and it's our problem later on. The sidewalk breaks, and then we got to replace it. We got to spend the money. You know what I'm saying? If we do it right the first time, I think it's the right thing to do. And I rode the site, and Al said, they made a mistake, and I thought they were going to replace it, and they didn't. But I guess we're going to give them 12 months. I don't know why, but I guess we are. I wouldn't have given them 12 months. I would have told them broke the sidewalk, fix the sidewalk, and that ridiculous curb wouldn't have been there.
Well, in light of what's been said tonight, one, the sidewalk was not put in properly for the city. They tried to correct it by putting wheel stops that are not that is not the purpose of wheel stops. Wheel stops are for a car to pull up to. And that 3, you're telling us tonight that the sewer line is not acceptable to the city.
No, man, the sewer line is acceptable to the city.
Why a year wait then?
The slope is not the minimum slope that was permitted, and so we have to show that the sewer line will function as designed, and we were able to show that the velocities can be achieved in the way it was built.
So you're saying the sewer line was put in, but not to the city specifications?
Right.
So, again, the sidewalk's not correct, the sewer line's not correct. Why are we accepting this project?
We can reject it, but that's
I'll turn this over to the city attorney, and you discuss that with staff, please, because this is not acceptable. And
Will
not
do.
only that, I also contacted the city manager about this because I was concerned when I saw it, but I also saw flooding going across to our sidewalk on another section of that project, so the drainage is not correct. Now, I had talked to the city manager about my concerns. I had not heard back from him, and of course he's all on vacation right now. But those are 3 things that I'm seeing. I'm hearing more information tonight than I realized, but also the drainage is a concern as well. So those 3 issues on this project are, to me, is not acceptable for the city to accept. Okay, that's my opinion.
I'm in agreement.
Okay.
Got it.
I got a few more things.
Okay, sure.
Sean, a couple questions for you.
Yes.
Now, I want to thank you for fixing the water line on the palm trees.
Not a problem. Thank you
They've
for calling.
been
it to our attention.
corrected. Now we're not having any water going into our sewer, or into our drains, and it's all fixed. I appreciate it. I ride my bike. I have a route, and I went by, and I hate to use. I'm not good with streets in Clewiston. I've only been here all
Give
my
me a
life.
landmark. I can help you.
I grew up here in Clewiston. I don't remember all the streets. Mr. Jones's house in Haytham. I drove by there. There's a hump there that I don't know what the purpose of that is. There's a hump in the road.
I think that is part of the work that was done to help bring the city into compliance. That's something that was done by our engineer to help get us the floodplain issues. Travis, what is it? That was something they built to put a part of the berm back to control flooding that would come to us.
Now that project, project wasn't brought to our attention, and who paid for that? What was the cost of that?
I was not involved in any part of that, sir.
So who can tell us that?
I would assume the city manager was the one.
Ms. Jones is on the hot seat tonight, but yeah.
He's right behind you.
Right behind you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
understand
I
that,
thought
but
it was a public works job.
it was not. It was something.
I didn't realize you.
The city manager, I think, was the one that approved that, instructed it to move forward.
Okay. I just got to get the list of who's in charge of what around here. A lot of people, sometimes I get confused who's on
understand.
first and who's on second.
Is there anything else?
No, that's it. That's it. That's all I had.
Thank you.
But I guess Mr. Jones I'm not sure what was that for. I mean, yeah, it wasn't brought to. I don't think it was brought up to the board.
It was the amounts were smaller, so it didn't have to come before you, so the city manager approved those. Those are going to help us meet FEMA's criteria for keeping floodwaters out of the city of Clewiston. There was a $6,000 approximately expenditure on an area near Marianne Martin's Marina that was a low spot in the city's perimeter. So that was patched, and then the asphalt was raised there by the Khaki House and my house, and that was a $13,000 expenditure approximately. I'll get you those numbers for sure. But that provides for keeping the floodwaters out of the city in the event of a levee breach. So that should hopefully get us out of the flood zone for FEMA.
The entire city out of the flood zone.
The entire city out of the flood zone for FEMA.
Right now, it's at 60%, and I guess the work that they required, this work that needed to be, would take the city out of 100% back out of the flood zone.
But I think, Mayor, if I may, I know it was under the budget, allowable budget for the manager to use, but I think every fund that's used in the city, at least we should get a, we should get at least a memo on it or
An update.
We
or
updated the
update
city on
it
what
or
we were
something.
doing as we were going forward with
I
that.
didn't. Why I ask you is because I thought it was a little ramp for the golf carts now to or the bikes. I don't know. I didn't
But
know
we
what
gave-
it was.
We gave the city updates in the public meetings, I believe, on that.
I didn't.
And
I
I
don't
thought the
remember
direction for the
anybody
board
remember
was
those
that
talks.
this had to be
Catherine,
done,
was
had to be
there
done quickly in the 90-day review period.
Right, because
So we wanted to get that done and taken care of for your
Kathy, was there
protection.
any emails that you sent out to the commission on that? I'm trying to think. I remember, or that maybe Al sent. Can you look at that and just send out,
I
please?
remember it was talked about in one commission meeting.
Right. I think it was talked about it was under the threshold.
Right.
And the city manager could make those decisions. And I think because of the fact of the time frame that had to be done within the 90 days of the review process, so that the maps could take that into account. So maybe there should have been a follow-up after the fact. I don't know if.
I must have
Okay.
missed it, but I just
Okay.
think we should get.
Well, let's make sure we
updates
all
on
get a
the
follow-up on that,
projects, all the
Kathy. Can you make
projects,
sure?
if they're under the
Okay.
threshold? And my last thing, and I've been wanting to say this, and honestly, guys, I support the golf carts in town. The adults driving the golf carts. I think it looks cute. I mean, people going all over with golf carts, but my problem is, and I see it all the time. Everybody else sees it here. When you got a 6 or 7, 8-year-old driving golf carts with 4 or 5 people hanging off of them, kids too. I think it's a safety issue. Now,
But
are
have
we
you kn-
supposed to do golf carts at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night? Are they supposed to be on the road?
I don't know the ordinance, but I believe that if it's brought to, if anybody sees anything and they call the police department, they're going to address the issue immediately. And there's a process. I know, I guess you'll have to come on up, but there is a process for the police officers to notify and then write tickets on minors driving golf carts.
Have we wrote any? Have we wrote any tickets? And
I wouldn't have that offhand. Marcy Vandenschlager, Clewiston Police
have
Department.
we stopped anybody? Have we done any
I
patrolling?
haven't seen any in a pass down recently. No, sir.
Because I don't see a lot of police cars in my area there in that neighborhood, and that's where it's happening in the north side.
Okay.
I don't see enough patrolling.
But have you notified the police department when you see this?
Mayor, the other day you said something that it's not our job. We're policymakers. It's not our
No,
job.
but if you see
But
every
I mean,
citizen's
the other
job.
day-
It's every citizen's
But
job.
nobody's doing it then.
But if you, but we only
But
have.
how about the parents'
I
responsibility?
agree, it's a parent's responsibility, but, kids sometimes do things without their parents knowing it. But if their parents know it, then it needs to be addressed. But if
folks-
we as a community see something that we're concerned about, we should make a phone call
Something,
in.
say something.
I mean, that is my, and so if you could afterwards maybe get with
No, the only
the
thing
assistant
is,
chief and let
the
her
only
know
thing I'm saying
specifically
is
where your
it's a
concern is
safe-
at.
It's a safety issue, Mayor.
I agree.
That's all I'm saying, and if we want to ignore it, let's ignore it.
Well, I don't think we're
But
ignoring it, but.
if somebody one day, God forbid, gets run over by a truck, that's what I want to prevent.
Absolutely.
And I know that this is just part of my list, but, I see it all the time in my neighborhood, Captain.
Okay.
And
Please
and
call us every time.
I
Call
know-
it. You're never bothering us.
Do you have her number?
No, I don't have a number.
Okay.
But,
If
but
you'll
I-
give him your number, because I mean, if it
all
may.
you got to drive is drive out there any night you want. You'll see it. So I don't think I need a call, but
Okay, all right, well,
I
I think
disagree
that
with
it's
it.
important that if any of us see anything that we're concerned about, that we should contact the
Yes.
police department and let them know, because it does take all of us. We have 2 officers on in a shift. They cannot be everywhere, but if they know that there's an area of concern, then it needs to be addressed. And if it's, whatever it might be, because I do call. So, is there anything else with Commissioner Rodriguez?
Oh, that's all.
Okay, Commissioner Atkinson?
Would like to keep pressure on DOT about the 27
Yes, sir.
and their pile of sand.
Yeah. Is there any, I mean, I know last month I asked you about the same pile of sand. Is there any updates of when they're going to move it? Thanks for bringing that up.
Yes, ma'am. You and a couple other commissioners have had comment on that pile of sand. I have been in contact with the Department of Transportation, and I will try and quote them / paraphrase the comment as it came back to me, because we did volunteer that. I had a loader running around in the area that if they sent a dump truck, we'd be happy to load it for them. The comment that came back was that is a DEP issue, that they strongly suggest we not touch it because it is hazardous. They could not give me a time as when it would be moved because they had cutbacks like everybody else, and it's just taking them longer to get around to get things picked up.
Okay. So, so what I'm hearing is that you're saying now that I didn't know that this was hazardous material, that it's now in the hazardous material, but they have yet to pick it up. I'd like to send a letter on behalf of the commission to the DEP and DOT and whoever else we need to send to it, that this is not acceptable to have hazardous material in the middle of our median and on Highway 27, and it needs to be addressed expeditiously.
I agree.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
The other thing I'd like to point out is I did work for the city before I become a commissioner. When I become a commissioner, I no longer did city work. I ask no favors of anybody from the city. I'm a resident of this city, and I will do work in this city, and I do not think that's a conflict. That can go in the newspaper, wherever. And I do not retract my statement about Travis Reese.
Okay.
I'm going to make it quick. I'm going to do my best. The 2 meetings. Do we want to continue with 2 meetings a month? What do we want to do about that? Because I just really kind of feel like we're hamstrung if we don't have everybody at the table at the meetings. And we missed the city manager here this evening, and there's been a number of meetings that he has missed. So I think we need to talk about how we're going to solve the situation and how we're going to move forward. Are we going to keep 2 regular meetings? In that spirit, as you're thinking about that, I really believe that we're missing out on workshops, and I think we should have a workshop quarterly. That revitalization plan needs to come out. It needs to be dusted off. And, you know, I'm willing to commit myself for 3 hours on a Saturday morning to take a look at that. We've all talked about SMART goals. I've talked about SMART goals from the first day I came up here. And I want that revitalization plan to come out in a workshop, dust it off, and let's see what we're going to do with that. How do we incorporate what we're going to do for championing the lake and getting our information out there to attract people to come. I just think it's very important that everybody's here at the table when we have our meetings, our commission meetings. It's really a deficit when there's an empty seat at that table.
Okay. Let me just say, you talked about the 2 regular city meetings. I mean, originally we had 1 city meeting a month. We had a workshop the Thursday before the Monday meeting. Right. Are you saying that you prefer that process versus the 2? We took it a year. We've done it a year. Right. That you prefer that process than to 2 regular meetings.
At the risk of some people rolling their eyes, I'm fine with the 2 meetings. Okay. But we need to have some time set aside, and I think even on top of those 2 meetings, to have the workshops where we have the time to be able to sit. And the sunshine law hamstrings us a lot of times. Because we're hesitant to talk to each other about what's going on. You have 5 people up here who I think have very good ideas, and we need to have that venue that is set aside for us to do the brainstorming, to set the goals, to make sure they're finite goals, to make sure they're being applied, to go back and take a look at them. I see that business has been going lately is we've got 5 people trying to get a hold of a city manager to find out what's going on. I myself am very careful about how I approach directors because our charter says we're limited in some of the information because I don't want them to misconstrue what I'm asking or my interest as a directive for something that they should do. And when they have 5 commissioners coming to them, we're talking about all the hats they wear and the stuff they're doing. Well, then they've got to take the phone calls, field the phone calls. I think at least quarterly, we have got to be able to come together for brainstorming so that everybody's on the same page. And when we've got empty seats at the meetings, even more so,
that becomes important for me. I don't know how the rest of you feel.
Okay, all right.
Well, myself, I've always liked the workshops. I like that format that we had, because the first meeting that we had this month, we only had, I think, one item. So, both meetings we don't have. It's not a full stage. So, I like the workshops. I think when we put them in a few years ago, and I like to see those come back in some capacity. So, do we want to keep the 2 meetings? The only thing that I saw good with the 2 meetings is if that we have to vote on something, we don't have to wait till the next month. I think that's what we all agreed on, so we can expedite business, so we don't hold up anybody from doing business in the city. But that's the only thing I see that's positive.
And if one of those meetings is shorter, well, that's fine. I bought into this, and whatever it takes for me, and I think the rest of you feel the same.
I'm fine.
We are live streaming, but people have that opportunity to when we have one meeting and we've got 19 things on the agenda that we've got to work through. That's challenging, and it's the elephant, and it's one bite at a time. If we have 2 regular commission meetings and they happen to be a little bit shorter, that's fine. But I firmly believe we have got to have workshop time to be able to do some of that brainstorming, to bring out what everybody's got on their mind, what they've got on their heart, what their concerns are, and be able to have those conversations and set those goals. We've been very lacking in that area, and we have got to commit ourselves to that.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Websites. I'm glad that we're live streaming. We're going to continue forward with that. Everybody had their information. We all had our charts. We all had our graphs. We went to the Lions Club. We went to the Rotaries. They got sick of seeing the train with everybody with their paperwork. None of it's on the website. So whether it's Travis who's posting his and Sean who's putting, if they have their own web pages, the city web page needs to be updated. I'm sorry, boring. It's got to be looked at. It's got to be attractive. The people that we want to come and take our place are those who are sitting home and they are doing their research from their house. Both parents are working. They've got kids. They don't have the opportunity to come here to the meetings. And if we don't meet them where they're at, we're not going to move anywhere. We need their input. We need to have their engagement.
And I know there was some work that the city clerk was working on with IT and the city manager to update our website for several reasons. But also I know that I'd heard about, that we have different social media accounts, and that the information is a little scattered. So I'll just piggyback on what you just said. But, a one-place source to go gather information on behalf of the city is something that I think we need to look at as well.
And if there's a point person in every one of those departments to upload that information as it comes in and what you're doing. So then when people want to make complaints and say they're not doing anything, well, I would encourage you to go look and see exactly what code enforcement's doing, see exactly what Sean's doing, find out what Travis is involved in. We shoot ourselves in the foot. We shoot ourselves in the foot, and we don't put that information out there, and we have to. Are there people who want to armchair quarterback it and second guess everything we do? Hello. It's the real world that's going to happen. And some of those people who have solid criticism, we need to hear it. We really do. Not everyone is going to like what we do. And from that, we can garner some information that's going to help us to make better decisions. It's the information world. Everybody's got one, and everybody's looking at it. We have got to champion what we're doing, what our department's doing, and what the city is doing, and it's time.
Okay. Anything else?
Nope, that's it. Okay, for today.
All right. Melanie?
I did have some comments, but I'm going to just hold them until the city manager is here. I think they're more pertinent to him. So I'm just going to pass today.
Okay. Okay. Commissioner Atkinson has one more thing.
I'd like, next time planning and zoning meets, well, from now on when they meet, if they can go over the ordinance book, maybe pick an ordinance every time planning and zoning gets together, go over it. Let's try to, just make sure that they're still where they need to be. And if they're not, let's correct them and
What
get a
recommendations
recommendation
they would
to correct them.
You would just take it just chapter one?
Yeah, just however you want to do it. If you see more ordinances that are more of a problem now, we can go ahead and look at those and then start at the front, or however you would like to proceed with it.
Okay, and Gary, I think that over this past couple of years, there's probably some things that have been brought up. And Kathy, you could probably come back and, from the minutes and look at that. But I think that Commissioner Atkinson brings up a good point. If there's some that are they're being repetitive and we keep seeing issues with, we need to look at those. And, I know we did a review in 2015, I believe, of the entire code of ordinances.
Codified the whole code.
Right, but there's some things that have have been brought to the attention of the staff as well as to the commission
In
over the
progress,
past
things
couple of years.
change.
Absolutely, and we should modify and we should look at it. If we have something that's not making sense, it needs to be addressed.
So there's another hat, Travis.
That kind of just make sure they don't overlap.
Okay, well, or it could be a workshop, that we do a workshop and we all sit down together, the commission, the P&Z board, CRA board, and we talk about some of these issues and start it that way.
I agree with that. I think if we make that circle larger, we utilize everybody's talents that they have, I think a lot of our issues can be streamlined and we can move forward much quicker than what we've been doing.
And we look at the 27 corridor.
Right, correct.
Yes.
But the ordinance is I think that the workshop, not just the P&Z in a meeting, but the P&Z and the commission together, and with the CRA, because we do have the advisory board, and the building board as well, and call it a workshop. Okay. Gary, you might want to give us some direction on what's the best way to get that done so that we do make progress. We just get mired down in the discussion.
But that's why I was, kind of said one ordinance kind of at a time.
Okay. There might be some that can be grouped together.
And even if you do that with an agenda, if you take you look holistically. We've been looking at things head on, and we need to step back and take a look at things from 30,000 feet. So if we look at things holistically, you can run a workshop with 2 or 3 groups working separately that can come together and take care of an issue from a number of different perspectives.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Okay, I do have one thing, and this is a question to the attorney. I know that during this last campaign cycle, there was something that I thought about, and that I felt that it was important for the city. I think that in the past, I've had concerns, not in the most, but in the past. And I think, I thought that if we had a 3-person citizens committee to review issues of doing business with the city. I know that Commissioner Atkinson made some comments tonight, and not so much with him as a contractor, but overall, the city of Clewiston employees or commissioners doing business with the city. In the past, I had problems that the purchase process, the purchase policy of the city was being used for work that I felt that it should not have been done that way. And I just think it's important that we're transparent. Yes, we can post a lot of stuff on a website and on social media, but there's some stuff that's not going to be posted, like the payments, who's getting paid for what, or who's doing work, whether it's in the permit process of the review. I just want to make sure that we're clear and transparent. And so I thought a 3-person advisory or a review committee would be in the best interest of the city to look at specific issues, and I'd like your guidance on that. And I don't know if even that's acceptable, but I just think that we need to do another layer of transparency as far as who's doing business with the city, and if it's under state law, if there's we just swore tonight to uphold state law, and if there's anything that could be considered as an issue, I want it looked at. I don't want to just, I think staff has, they I've always said the city manager has 5 bosses and we have thousands of bosses. And I think it's important that that information is reviewed, whether it's through the permitting process, whether it's through doing work directly from the city and receiving payment from it that wasn't under a bid process, a sealed bid process. I just want to make sure it's clear and transparent and that things are being done accordingly.
So an oversight committee.
An oversight committee. Thank you.
So more or less an ethics oversight committee?
I would think so.
Okay. Well, I can
Accountability, I don't know, accountability, oversight, I don't know what you want to call it, but I'd like for you to look at that because I do believe that it's another layer that I believe for transparency's sake we need to have. And there might not be any issues whatsoever. But I just want to make sure that there's not any issues.
Okay.
Okay. That's all I have tonight. I saw you stand up. Are you wanting to make another public comment?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Another layer of kind of committee work might also be performing the same function as a very strong city manager who might be saying, you want your job, you do this or don't do that. He's got to be an honest, strong person, and he will clean the clock of anybody who doesn't look like they're towing the line. In other words, one person rather than a committee, it's an alternative, and I think everybody might be stronger.
Thank you. Okay. I just thought of something else. Can you add contracts to that as well?
Yes.
Thank you. All right. If there's not anything else before us, we appreciate everybody being with us here tonight.
So moved.
Meeting adjourned.
I did. Bring my first one. You mean it.